Sam or Richtofen. Can't say I want either getting their wish.
Really? I'd assumed you, of all people, have a vested interest in the director's cause.
I could look at this whole thing as my chance to undo the worst thing I ever did.
I always got the impression it wasn't really your fault. Bad intel or something? But yeah, you still have to live with 2 deaths on your conscience.
But are we gonna be on opposite sides once we take back the artifact?
Being friends doesn't mean we always have to agree. And you may have picked a side already, but I'm still on the fence. Mac, my heart's telling me the right thing is to fix Maxis's mistake. Even if it means helping Richtofen.
Nothing against Mrs. Richtofen and Junior, and I know that shit's personal for you, but I'm struggling for any reason to help the fucking director.
Join the club. But just because he's an asshole doesn't mean they had to pay for it. And it's not him I owe. It's the people I murdered. Bottom line, if I can resurrect an innocent woman and child, I'm doing it.
That's as close to a happy ending as you're likely to get. No offense, I'm Team Sam.
Helping Richtofen is a non-starter. He's a monster. But expunging a terrible mistake from Maxis's record, maybe I owe her that.
You played us, Sam. I'd rather fix my worst mistake than go on making new ones.
Richtofen's revelation must be weighing upon you.
What's there to say, Sergei? I killed his wife and child. For years I've had to live with that. Now, maybe I don't.
The 4-year-long Dark Ether story mystery has finally been answered. Ever since they were alluded to in Black Ops Cold War, the deaths of Samuel and Mary Richtofen and how they relate to Weaver and Samantha Maxis have been the driving force behind the entire plot of the Dark Ether narrative. They sparked Richtofen's arc in becoming the director of Requiem, orchestrating all events behind the scenes, handpicking Weaver as one of the heads so we could keep a close eye on him, as well as getting him to do his bidding, and creating Project Janus, eventually leading to him interrogating and experimenting on Samantha Maxis and manipulating her into sacrificing herself to ensnare the Forsaken, as well as creating Project Janus. And this single event set in motion basically everything we have seen since The Machine. Thanks to the monumental story reveals in Reckoning, Black Ops 6's final DLC, we can finally piece together exactly what happened with Mary and Samuel. In this video, we will finally find out exactly why Weaver killed them, why Samantha was involved, and just who ordered this CIA hit. All of that and more will be unveiled in this video, so stay tuned until the very end. To begin to understand this story, we have to turn back the clock to just after the Vietnam War. Eddie had grown up in America under Kraft's guidance, and this time in America had led him to serving in Vietnam. He made a name for himself as the Blue Baron, an incredibly skilled pilot, based on the real-life Red Baron. Because of his talent in the field, he was approached by a man from the US government, someone far above his station. This man was named Adrian Kruger. Kruger took young Eddie under his wing and brought him into the division to work underneath him and learn the trade. Meanwhile, Eddie met Kruger's secretary, Mary. He and her quickly hit it off, and it was clear a spark was developing. The two fell in love over time and ended up married. Not long after, they had a son, Samuel Richtofen. While the two fell in love and formed a life together, both Kruger and Mary each kept their own secrets from Richtofen. On Reckoning, we have this document called Misdirection Part 1.
Secure connection. Established.
X-Ray 1 standing by for instructions.
Weaver, what I'm about to tell you is sensitive, compartmented information for your ears only.
Copy.
Do not speak about this to any company assets. You're off the grid until the deed is done. Understood?
I said copy.
Target is at a safe house maintained by the BND in Bremen. Coordinates are waiting at your usual dead drop. Target is accompanied by a young male child. I've arranged for him to be away with his mother during your operational window.
Yeah, good.
Approach under cover of darkness, eliminate the target, torch the place. Simple as that.
Any intel I need to retrieve?
Negative. Make the hit, light the fire. Do not search the premises. Am I clear?
Fine. I'll make it quick. Is this you, Maxis? Because this cloak and dagger bit is not your usual mode of operations.
Terminating. Secure connection.
This fucking job.
I'm not sure why they would even be held in a safe house in Bremen, Germany, which doesn't make much sense when, of course, Richtofen and his family lived in America. So, as it turns out, this unknown operator is in fact Kruger, which the later intel goes on to confirm that I'll come onto. And he had been enriching himself by getting his hands dirty. He worked with the syndicate crime families in Avalon and sold them weapons and technology illegally. Using these under-the-table deals, he gained money, power, and connections. Meanwhile, though, intelligence agencies had already begun to suspect Kruger's activities and began an investigation into him. Their number one source of information was an undercover informant, someone close to him who knew of his activities and was willing to talk with investors. This informant was Mary Richtofen. We have the Misdirection Part 2 document. Top secret. Burn after reading. 2. Agent Samantha Maxis. This order supersedes previous instructions to secure the whistleblower and her child at the Saxony facility. You will place them in Bremen Safe House number 3 due to increased level threat. Do not communicate with BND nor Langley regarding change of plans. Do not post security personnel at Bremen 3. Weaver will contact you once it is deemed safe for him to relocate them. Mary had not told Richtofen this, and she kept a secret from him. As it turns out, her time working for Kruger had specifically been to gather information on his illegal arms dealings and assist in the investigations. This all comes to a head when Kruger would discover that he was being snitched on, an attempt to solve the problem. Mary would take Samuel and go into protective custody with the BND, going to a safe house hideout in order to remain hidden from Kruger until everything died down. And just who did the BND assign to protect this safe house? None other than Agent Samantha Maxis herself. She was assigned to keep the boy safe, as she said in her Cold War intel. It was Samantha's job to protect this safe house and make sure Samuel and Mary remained unharmed while Kruger attempted to take her out and preserve his position of power. Not long after Mary moved to the safe house, Samantha's old friend Gregory Weaver received new orders. Contacted by who he believed to be Samantha, he was ordered to go to a safe house in Berlin and eliminate a target. While he believed he was talking to Samantha, the person actually pulling the strings behind this hit was Kruger. When Weaver arrived to take out his target, his contact ordered him to torch the safe house so it would leave no evidence, and then to leave. Immediately, do not investigate the site after the hit. These odd orders, especially coming from who Weaver was beginning to think might not be Maxis, pushed his curiosity over the edge. He couldn't help himself and went to the site to investigate. It was here Weaver discovered what he had actually done: murdered a woman and her child, and whoever he was talking to had not been Samantha Maxis. He then ran to her apartment, falling into her arms crying at 3 AM, confessing the night's events as we hear in Black Ops Cold War. From here, Richtofen would be stricken with grief. He could not move on, and so dedicated his life to bringing back his family. He would begin his investigations into ways to bring them back, leading him to take advantage of the Dark Ether and start the plans to eventually create Project Janus. With it, he would end up attempting to obtain the Sentinel artifact and use the power it held to create his family once more, at least in one of the endings of Reckoning. As to which is canon is yet to be determined, or potentially both endings could be. So there we have it. This years-long mystery has been answered, but the way it's been handled is just so miserable. The assassination has been the most interesting and impactful part of the Dark Ether storyline so far, and with Reckoning, Trek have managed to strip it of everything that made it powerful. They've taken all agency and autonomy away from Samantha Maxis and Weaver and essentially made them innocent, and even have wiped Richtofen clean of guilt, with him not actually ever being the target for assassination like we previously thought. We've been speculating for years why Richtofen was the target, and as it turns out, it was his wife all along, and he was completely oblivious to that. Instead, they pinned it all on some random person we have never heard of before and will likely never hear from again. It's such a waste of a payoff and completely undoes some of the best writing we saw from Black Ops Cold War, and removes so much emotional stakes connected to Samantha and Weaver. It's also completely contradictory to stuff we have heard before from Cold War's intel. Samantha expressed great guilt for the events of that day, but really, she had no role to play at all, as it turns out, and only Weaver did. So this just doesn't make any sense at all. Samantha even says that she gave the intel to Weaver. In Cold War's intel, this is just a complete retcon. I'm just absolutely baffled. Samantha Maxis literally says in Cold War, I gave the intel to Weaver. The intel he acted upon. But turns out Kruger just gave fake intel to Weaver, and also Samantha, I guess? But even then, that's not directly stated. And how did she not even know she was falling for faulty intel when she was the assigned one on the case and should know better? As it turns out, it was just a person from Richtofen's past that had a gripe. Ever since it was first hinted at in Black Ops Cold War, the deaths of Samuel and Mary Richtofen have been the emotional and narrative backbone of the Dark Ether arc. The stakes were huge. The possibilities for how the truth could play out were endless. There were a million interesting directions to go, each one filled with potential for drama, emotional weight, complexity, for devastating personal consequences. For example, if Samantha intentionally targeted Richtofen, or Richtofen had done bad things in his past with, for example, tampering with the Dark Ether that led to him being a target. But instead we get this, an explanation so boring and nonsensical that no one would have even guessed it. This was not on anyone's bucket list, and one that manages to contradict prior intel in the process. We have this piece of whistleblower intel while playing as Weaver. If you reach round 13 without being in the mutant research test area, then head to the clone room of Richtofen's family, and the SAM AI should give you a voice line. You then have to interact with a speaker on the wall near a door, then the log will spawn on the console computer just next to it. And I'll play the intel for you now.
Weaver, there's something very important I need to tell you.
Kinda busy, Sam.
Weaver, there's something very important I need to tell you.
Kinda busy, Sam.
Just listen. It's about the man who recruited Edward Richtofen into the CIA. A man named Kruger. They first met in Vietnam, when Eddie was a fighter pilot.
And?
Kruger saw something in him, and put him to work in the Directorate of Operations. Kruger's secretary, Mary, would eventually become Eddie's wife. She noticed things about Kruger. Troubling things. He was secretly funneling weaponry to the French syndicate in Avalon, pocketing the funds and covering up their human trafficking operations. She gathered evidence against Kruger, but kept Eddie out of the loop for his own good.
What's this got to do with me?
Mary sought whistleblower protections. Kruger learned that Maxis was the case officer assigned to secure her and young Samuel at a safe house.
Holy shit. Do you mean?
Yes. Kruger silenced Mary by arranging the hit you carried out. He lied to you about the target. It was not your fault. You and Maxis were set up, and Kruger made sure his friend, Eddie, blamed you.
This whole time, all the shit Richtofen put us and himself through over a fucking lie.
I just thought you should know, regardless of whom you decide to help today.
This is our first big issue though. If Sam knows that Weaver was tricked into this, why would Eddie not know this? Samantha Maxis surely did not know this when she was alive. She considered herself entirely responsible along with Weaver. So if Sam knows this, she surely would have been told by Eddie, right? But if Eddie knows, why in the world was he ever mad at Weaver and Sam, who are essentially innocent? It's nonsense, so let's just ignore that plot hole for now. To understand how it all unfolded, we go back to just after the Vietnam War. Eddie grew up in America under Kraft's guidance and served in Vietnam, where his skill as a pilot earned him the nickname the Blue Baron. The reputation caught the attention of a high-ranking US government figure named Adrian Kruger. Kruger brought Eddie into the US government and mentored him. During this time, Eddie met Kruger's secretary, Mary, and the two fell in love. They got married and had a son, Samuel Richtofen. But behind the scenes, Kruger was deep into illegal dealings, dealing weapons to the French syndicate in Avalon. Intelligence agencies were already watching him, building a case. The main informant was someone close to Kruger, someone he trusted. That informant was Mary Richtofen. She kept this from Eddie, working undercover to gather evidence and assist in the investigation, which just doesn't really work in a healthy relationship, and that's why these things are always so complex. When Kruger realized he was being betrayed, Mary and Samuel were placed in protective custody at a B&D safe house. With Samantha Maxis assigned to protect them, this was the moment where everything could have stayed tense and human, where characters we know could have made devastating choices. Instead, it all gets reduced to a bait and switch. which, Weaver received orders to eliminate a target at a safe house in Berlin. He thought the orders were coming from Samantha, but they were actually from Kruger. The instructions were to kill the target, burn the place, and leave without searching it. Weaver followed the plan, only to investigate afterward and realize the people he had just killed were Mary Richtofen and her child. The voice on the other end had never been Samantha. Again, this just doesn't make any sense and completely contradicts Cold War's intel. The thing is, this entire framing makes Samantha and Weaver blameless. It makes Richtofen blameless. It puts all responsibility onto Kruger, who is nothing more than a last-minute plot device. Years of character building, moral ambiguity, and personal stakes vanish in one reveal. Weaver's discovery of what he had done is heartbreaking, but it no longer feels like it matters. It is no longer the act of a man torn by impossible choices or manipulated by someone he trusted like Samantha Maxis. It just makes another faceless plot twist, and the person behind it might as well not exist for all the difference it makes. It just is so weird. I think it really would have been so much more interesting for it to somehow connect to Samantha Maxis and Richtofen's past. I've been speculating before that maybe she targeted him intentionally due to jealousy because he was chosen for adoption by Kraft while she remained in the orphanage in Germany alone. That lifetime of loneliness and resentment could have built up to vengeance over time, and almost seems to be what's implied in Destroy Something Beautiful, as if she wanted to take this new beautiful life that he got to have, because the entire point of the Tag to Tone ending was the universe resetting and Eddie and Sam getting a fresh start at life, but only Eddie was able to build a family and live a happy, content life, whereas she wasn't able to. And in Destroy Something Beautiful, you even hear very, very faintly in the background of a small segment some embers burning in the background. I'll play that clip for you now. This to me definitely seems to suggest that it was supposed to be about the events of that day, but now come with this random weird retcon plot twist. It just doesn't make any sense. Richtofen was never even the target, it was just his wife. It's just so jarring to me. Surely Richtofen would have found this out and would have suspected it along the way, especially with how smart and calculated he was throughout Cold War, which is the complete opposite to how he is in Black Ops 6, which can make sense with the time jump, but I think that's more in the nature of who he is, and I would have liked to see more of that calculatedness play out throughout Black Ops 6 as well, like we thought was going to happen. For Richtofen, the loss still drove him to search for ways to bring back his family, leading him to the Dark Ether, Project Janus, and his pursuit of the Sentinel artifact, but even that feels hollow now. None of it comes from a betrayal by someone we know, or from the tragic mistakes of those he once called allies. It is all the fault of a stranger who might as well be erased from the record. And it's leading way, way too much up to chance. What are the odds that Samantha Maxis and Richtofen separate at birth? They literally grow up in completely different countries, and yet somehow fate brings them together to where she gets placed on assignment to protect Richtofen's family that she ultimately falters in, and Richtofen's family die in the process instead. It just makes no sense, and if you are going to make it a matter of fate that these two people are always destined to eternal doom and damnation, like what happened in the prior zombie cycle, then you need to tie it to their history and their characters. That makes it interesting. There is so much they can explore from a human perspective, and with Stockholm Syndrome and stuff like that, to where the effects of their childhoods, which they literally spent an eternity in the house in the old story. They were each other's best friends as children. That would have had all of their experiences from the old ether carries forward to the new story, and that shapes and molds who they are. But now that's all erased. The questions about how much Richtofen remembers from the old story, or how much Samantha Maxis remembers and her amnesia she experienced after Firebase C, all of that speculation about their memories goes out of the window and will probably never ever be mentioned again, especially now it seems like Samantha Maxis was apparently consumed by the Forsaken all along and may never return. And we have the Sam AI, who may potentially be a stand-in with now a real body, depending on if it's canon. This is just completely unneeded. I don't know what Treyarch were thinking. Honestly, I didn't even know if they were going to explain the assassination properly. I really thought they should though, because we needed to find out what happened, because that's what we've been speculating the most for the past 4 years. But honestly, no explanation would be better better than this. At least then, fans could hold on to their own theories and headcanon and emotional investment in this day. They could debate amongst each other what actually sparked the assassination and who is really the most guilty. Was Richtofen guilty and that's why he was a target? Was Samantha guilty and she targeted him intentionally? Did Weaver and Samantha have no personal connection to why the assassination took place and were just given an order by the CIA of which they acted upon, of which they would still be somewhat guilty in, but it's a little more grey? All of the other speculation and ideas provided so much ambiguity, moral ambiguity to these characters, whereas now that's all out of the window. Instead, this retcon undercuts so much of what Cold War built, the world building, turning some of its most compelling moments into empty noise. You cannot have the events of this day just be all responsible for a random character, with too much relying on chance. I do not know where the Dark Ether story goes from here. It feels like a slap in the face to anyone who followed it closely for years, only to see all of that setup tossed aside. There is no reason to be emotionally invested in these characters anymore. There is no reason to theory craft when the payoff is this flat and disconnected. Everything they have been building towards for the last 4 years crumbles in one map. And now with the focus shifting back to the original characters, it feels unearned, because the arcs that they've been setting up so far in the Dark Ether narrative should have been wrapped up properly first, tied together in a way that respected the build-up before they even considered moving on to the original characters. Instead, the Dark Ether storyline is left hanging, gutted of its most compelling threads, and it is hard to care anymore. The answers that we have gotten throughout Black Ops 6 Zombies all have been unsatisfying. And then, at the same time, there's still way too many loose threads and some are being saved for Black Ops 7 Zombies. But I don't have any faith that they will get satisfying answers either. I'm just left here absolutely speechless. I don't know where to go. I was so invested in the assassination. It was so interesting. And Trek have just completely screwed it up. I really do not know. I don't know if they were just short for time and so they had to retcon this plan, because clearly this was never the original intention, and because they're moving on to Black Ops 7 Zombies with the original characters, maybe they had to get the event of this day out of the way, and this was just the easiest way for them to do so, but unfortunately it ruins the story, and this is probably a big problem with them making 2 games back to back like this. I cannot imagine this was ever the way it was supposed to go. My Cold War Zombie storyline video was so good, and the way I described the events of this day I think was one of the most gripping parts of that video I made, and then we had a segment at the end speculating about what all of the possibilities could be, and really it's a nothing burger just like everything else. Just like with the Forsaken returning for literally 5 seconds and getting killed off on this map like it was nothing. Just like Samantha Maxis getting killed off screen and has apparently been dead this entire time, leading all of the Modern Warfare zombie speculation about what happened to her, which was a big question throughout that game, literally being pointless. I just don't know. I don't know if Treyarch have the source anymore. I don't know if they can even handle the original characters returning respectfully, because all of the lore in this map indicates otherwise. I'm hoping they can surprise us, and I'm hoping that the reason why the story is so bad on this map is because they're focusing mainly on getting the Black Ops 7 zombie story right, and so they've had to undercut this story in exchange for that. But so far the evidence is not looking likely, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of this retcon. It just doesn't make any sense. It completely contradicts all of Cold War Zombies intel. Like, I'm actually just mad. The longer I think about this, the madder I get. I just cannot believe it. I've been emotionally invested in this event for 4 years. 4 years I've been making videos on this. Not just me, many other people have. And it's all been for nothing. It's just like, why? What the hell? Like, genuinely, I just don't know. The amount of dedication and interest that I have poured into this Dark Ether narrative, whilst many other people in the community have just not enjoyed it as much and they preferred the Ether stuff, and I love that as well, of course. But I feel like I was one of the few people that really gave the Dark Ether narrative a chance, and I think I helped elevate it with my full Cold War Zombie story video, the Vanguard one I did, etc. And it helped get people on board who were too overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of intel in Cold War Zombies to get into the narrative. But now all of that build-up that went into my entire Cold War Zombies storyline video has completely fallen flat on its face, and it feels like, what is the reason to care about any of this storyline anymore when it all just ends up being for nothing? Characters are contradicting themselves all of the time throughout this game. There's just no consistency in emotional arcs or anything, and I'm really losing faith, and I don't know what to do, and most people are feeling similarly right now. I don't even know what I'm going to do for my full Black Ops 6 Zombie storyline video, because it retcons so much of Cold War, it changes so much of the past and makes it so much worse retroactively, which I think the world building of Cold War was its best attribute, and now that, in hindsight, does not feel as good, because we've gotten some of the actual answers and they're just nothing. But really, better improve for the original characters. But even if it does improve, it's not going to change the fact that they've destroyed what the Dark Ether storyline has been this entire time, the entire point of it, the emotional investment, the moral ambiguity, everything's gone out of the window. But yeah, I'm really rambling now. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless, genuinely speechless. I guess I will see you with more videos soon, more story content, hopefully more positive content, but I don't really have much positive storyline stuff to say about Reckoning, to be honest, so I don't know. I'm just hoping, praying Black Ops 7 Zombies is better, because if they write in a similar style for the original characters, they are going to ruin them as well, and then retroactively it's going to make the Ether storyline feel worse, just like how retroactively, because they've butchered the Black Ops 6 Zombies storyline, it's retroactively made Cold War Zombies seem so much worse, and it's just hard because you can't really think of them in a self-contained way when so much about what made Cold War Zombies so great was the build-up that was being set up for Forsaken. The ending cutscene of Forsaken is great, with them all getting arrested and Richtofen getting his revenge and wondering about what calculated moves he's going to make next, because he won pretty much everything throughout Cold War Zombies, and yet he started off in the back burner in Liberty Falls, getting teleported away into a liminal space. Everything feels like a joke now. People don't feel like real characters. Stuff just happens for the sake of it. Random characters are introduced that don't make any sense for the sake of it. What has happened to the story I love? And you know, I'm not one who's just like, oh, only stick to Ether. I've actually been one who's been committed to the new story. I've liked it. I've liked its differences to the Ether story, and I've liked its similarities as well. But with Black Ops 6 Zombies, it's the worst of everything. It's over-convoluted with random chaos lore weaved in, but at the same time, it's too simple with a lot of the character arcs, as everyone feels like cookie-cutter versions of who they were in Cold War, like caricatures of their complexities that they used to have. Arcs are abandoned at a whim. It's just, there's nothing for me to be satisfied about right now. Sorry, I'm getting over it. I'll see you with more videos to come. Bye. To conclude this video, I want to shout out the fact that I finally decided to make a Patreon and Cameo account, both of which will be linked below if you want to help support the channel. On Patreon, you can sign up for the lowest tier of just $1.50 a month to get exclusive access for my Discord, where we can discuss zombies lore, trivia, or whatever you desire. A place where you lot, my community, can better connect. Your names will also appear at the end of videos thanking you. For $5.50 a month, you get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive monthly Q&As. And for $16.50 a month, you again get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive lore videos, such as unpacking niche parts of the Treyarch documents I've been breaking down on my channel that don't as much suit a main channel video. For the highest tier, only for those with the ability to and who really want to help out the channel, you get special bonuses I've yet to determine and verbal shoutouts at the end of every video. Over on Cameo, I can do funny videos reading lines from zombies, memes like how do we tell him, birthday wishes for friends or family, or whatever else you desire, practically anything. Of course, none of this is necessary, just watching and enjoying the videos helps me immensely and I greatly appreciate it. However, I think it's about time I start setting up additional revenue streams because Zombies' popularity is tumultuous and always goes through ups and downs. As I'm sure you've lately seen on the channel, viewership is down a lot. We go through big highs when new games release, but then during these drought periods, I need more income stability so I don't have to worry as much about it and I can focus more on improving the quality of the content. My highest quality videos are not always the ones that best please YouTube algorithms, so instead, this way I can produce my best work knowing I don't have to think as much about how well the content's going to perform. So if you'd like to support me on Patreon for exclusive content or would like a simple Cameo message, you can do so to further support me via the links below, but only if you can afford it and you actually want to help me. Don't feel like you are forced to, don't worry, I'll survive. It would just help relieve some of the pressure during inconsistent periods on the channel, so I don't have to solely rely on AdSense revenue and still maintain the sheer quantity and quality of content that I put out. Obviously, I pump out literally a boatload of content, and some of these are absolutely crazy projects over hour-long videos, so it's a lot on my plate, especially when these videos don't perform particularly well. And I've not been doing many sponsorships lately to help supplement revenue either, so it would greatly help. Thank you for any generous person once again who does kindly support the channel. It means the absolute world and will really help keep this boat afloat.